All right, welcome back to our bulletin. We are going to be tackling issues to do with our energy sector, to do with power in a bit. But first, to the MPC announcement today, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has kept its policy rate unchanged. The bank left its key lending rate at 16%. That's how much it lends to commercial banks. Now, speaking at a press conference today, Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, said the decision was taken because of threats to growth outlook and inflation have been slightly contained despite some challenges.
In the energy sector, large foreign exchange payments for excess capacity associated with the take-or-pay power purchase agreements, which has contributed to higher demand for foreign exchange, will have to be managed urgently. Also, the vulnerability associated with high non-resident holdings of domestic debt, which poses significant risks to the fiscal consolidation process, debt dynamics, and the Bank of Ghana's efforts at building reserve buffers should be addressed. The committee was of the view that the monetary policy stance is relatively tight and real interest rates in Ghana are comparatively high. In the circumstances, the Monetary Policy Committee has decided to keep the policy rate unchanged at 16%. The committee will closely monitor developments in the coming months and will not hesitate to take immediate and decisive policy actions, including a tighter monetary policy stance, should these risks materialize and threaten to dislodge the disinflation process.
Governor of the Central Bank there, Dr. Ernest Addison, announcing that the policy rate is going to be kept at 16% unchanged. Well, we are picking reactions to this announcement from, first of all, Nanoto Echampong, who is a banking consultant. He says that that decision was good.
Ghana is not an island. And therefore, if you take the international outlook, that is the norm that is going now. Only about a month ago, U.S. announced that they don't intend moving the rate anyhow for a while. So I think because of that, we were expecting that ours will be maintained as well. And when you are practicing an inflation targeting economy, those are some of the variables that you have to check. That inflation has come down, and so interest rate is keeping the inflation in check.
The governor made a very critical comment when a question again was asked about concerns about the last decision to cut the policy rate and the response from offshore investors. The governor made it clear that they take decisions on internal developments, and he stands by that.
I think that was very true, and that was a very good and apt response, because at the end of the day, we shouldn't be dictated to by foreigners. It is our economy, and we manage it as we see fit. So it was a good question, and his answer was even better. The bank itself has also been undertaking their own survey, and their survey points to the confidence coming back. But at the moment, what will make that confidence complete is when we have resolved the other non-universal banking sector, i.e. the SNL, the finance houses, rural bank, and microfinance. Once those are done, then it will be complete, because within that sector, the monies are commingled. And so it's very difficult to differentiate between what you have in a universal bank and what you have in an SNL or savings and loan.
Well, whenever the policy rate is announced, there's always a conversation about whether or not interest rates are going to go down. Well, financial analyst Charles Mensah has expressed hope that banks would revise their interest rates in line with the consistent drop in the policy rate.
Change it. One would have expected that the banks will reduce the charges, the interest rate on the loans to industry. But anytime the MPC reduces it, you don't see the immediate thing to the, oh, we have revised our lending rate. You don't. You say, oh, we want to wait and see small before we amend it, because they may have granted a loan to some company at a certain rate. I think there should be some law backing it, like anytime there's a change in the monetary policy rate, it shouldn't be voluntary. There should be the same movement being passed on to the borrowers of those funds from the bank. So government increases it, the Bank of Ghana increases it, interest rate will go up. It reduces it, interest rate will be reduced. It stays it, interest rate will stay. So now then it makes the listening to the Bank of Ghana or the governor going to preach or going to read about the MPC interesting. But if it doesn't have any impact on the industry, especially the SMEs, because we have a large chunk of the SMEs, nobody thinks about them, but they have a large chunk of them SMEs. They get frustrated because as we speak right now, the interest rate is still high. When you look at the composition of people's costs, it's still high. So that's why you don't see people borrowing to invest, or to expand. You don't see these days because it's still high, on the high side.
The on-ending conversation about policy rate and the interest rates, we see what happens in the near future. Well, let's move on to some energy matters. Government says a total shutdown of the Ghana gas facility in the western region will allow for interconnection works between the facility and the West Africa gas pipeline. The Ministry of Energy says the situation is regrettable. It's talking about the intermittent power outages, but expects the situation to be the same over the next 12 days. It is appealing to businesses to rely on alternative sources of energy whilst the interconnection is completed. Deputy Energy Minister Dr. Mohamed Adam explained this at a press conference today.
Finally take a decision to do the shutdown, because for every 1 day that you delay in the shutdown, the government of Ghana is to pay $400,000. That is how much the people of Ghana will have to pay if we further delay the shutdown, because the contractors have been brought to site for some time now. And so if you have to pay for 10 days, that's about $4 million United States dollars. And you all know the difficulties we have. We need that money to develop our country, to build more schools and more hospitals. We cannot be using it just for postponing something which is an obligation, something we have to do to get better. And so it's inevitable. And therefore, if you have challenges in the process of changing from total gas to liquids, and don't forget that some of the challenges we have faced is because it takes a number of hours, in some cases days, to switch from gas to liquid. You can't just stop gas and then you pump liquids into the plant and the plant will start generating. It takes time. The adjustment period differs from one plant to another, some for hours, some for days. And that is why you have those challenges. And so you will notice that by the time we finish the shutdown, when all the plants that are using liquids are on liquids, if we have to go back to gas, you will face some challenges at that point again, because you now have to switch from liquids back to gas. And therefore, you need some adjustment period. And that is the information we are providing to you, so that you know that these challenges are here with us, but we are addressing them. And this is why alternative arrangements have been made to ensure that we have sufficient liquids to continue supplying power to our people.
All right, so the intermittent power outages, we're going to see that in the next 12 days, and essentially businesses are being urged to look for alternative power sources. That's subject for our poll tonight. We'll get into that in a bit. But first, let's get some more from that press conference, which was attended by my colleague, Eben Sabute. He joins me in the studio. So, Eben, let's begin, first of all, with why Atuabo is being shut down.
Okay, so the shutdown is as a result of some work that needs to be done on the facility to connect it with the West African gas pipeline so that they can transport gas from the western region to the eastern region. They explained to us that there's adequate gas in the western side as compared to what is in the eastern side, which is Tema. So there's the need for them to connect these pipelines so that they can transport the gas back to Tema to fuel, our generators and power plants.
Does that explain the power outages that parts of the country?
Exactly so, because most of the plants live, yes, they thrive on gas. And because of the shutdown, the Ghana gas facility is not able to produce gas to these facilities, these plants, so that they could be able to work and give us the power. So there is actually the intermittent power.
So after the press briefing, the journalists were taking on a tour to Tema.
Yes, exactly.
Tell us about that tour.
So we went to the Tema Oil Refinery. I mean, the tour was just to let us know that there's enough fuel supply to augment the situation. As I indicated earlier, because most of the plants were relying on gas, now that the gas facility is not working, it means there's going to be a shortage. So there's the need for a switch onto the plants that rely on diesel and HFO. Therefore, they have to make use of the facilities at the Tema Oil Refinery, and that is the reason why we went to the Tema Oil Refinery. So over there, the MD of Tema Oil Refinery, as you could say, I mean, expressed the concern that yes, the situation is very regrettable, yes, but they have enough supply, there's enough fuel to augment the situation. He's been explaining to us. I think we want to listen to him.
10,500 metric tons of AGO, that's diesel. And this was brought in for VRA. And it was brought in by Stratcon and Go Energy, two of our BDCs. Secondly, we received 11,000 metric tons of heavy fuel oil, HFO, and it's been earmarked for AXA. This was brought in by Go Energy. And then thirdly, we've received also 300,000 barrels of light crude oil. This has been designated for VRA, and we have it in tank. What we have done so far, we are now in the process of loading BRVs, which are destined for AXA. We can do about 1,000 metric tons a day. We have asked the NPA to give us permission to load after 6 o'clock. And we are prepared to work on Saturday to ensure that we can do 1,500. 6 o'clock to 10 p.m., we want that additional time, and we'll work on Saturdays and possibly on Sundays also to ensure that the entire stock of 10,000 metric tons, of 11,000 metric tons, find its way to AXA. Secondly, we've just started a process, you see, because once you bring in the crude oil, it's got to settle to enable you to determine the quantities. And we've just started the process of transmitting by the pipeline that we have between ourselves and VRA, transmitting the crude oil to VRA. We do understand that there's another consignment of 1,500 metric tons of AGO, which is coming in for VRA.
Eben, lots of explanations. Yes. I'm not sure people really get what he's saying, but I mean, the question is, what's it going to change? Is it going to augment power supply in any way?
Exactly. So the long and short of what he's saying is that we have enough fuel to augment the situation. So he mentioned AXA, he mentioned VRA and some other plants. All these plants give us power. So the fuels that came in are going to be shared or distributed among these plants. And at the end of the day, we are going to have power supply. What this will also mean is that if we are supposed to go on doom for 24 hours, it's going to be reduced. It's going to be.
So I mean, it's not totally.
It's not going to be a total doom. So no, it's going to be doom for maybe some 4 hours or 3 hours for the day, and then the power comes back. That's all he's explaining over there.
All right. So I mean, we're totally not out of the woods here. Thank you very much, Eben Sabute. But in the next 12 days, businesses are to seek alternative power supply. I don't know if we can pull up our poll on Facebook, because that's our subject for tonight. The Energy Ministry has urged businesses to consider alternative sources of power to run their businesses for the next 12 days. What would be the impact on your finances? That's what we've been asking business owners tonight. And well, as you can see, and not surprising, 75% of the people who have cast their votes say that is going to have a huge impact on their finances. And so it'll be interesting to hear in the future what businesses have to say about all that is going on. Are we seeing a return to doom so or what? So that's our poll. You can go to our Facebook page, Joy Business, and cast your vote as well. While still on energy matters, Executive Director for the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ASAP, Bembuachi, says the current developments in the energy sector can't be described as a crisis situation. The minority has insisted government comes out with a power rationing timetable and to come clear to tell the public what the problem is. However, the independent energy think tank ASAP says there is a shortfall in power supply, which is due to the fact that power producers do not have the capacity to acquire fuel for production.
I think there is a power crisis. We have a shortfall about 200 to 300 megawatts off peak and the peak period. So it's a challenge. It could be resolved in the next coming days, but I think it has to be communicated that there is a shortfall and that consumers will have to bear with the system. As we speak, the major generators who could actually come in to absorb the shortfall, they are not producing to capacity. Car Power, for example, is doing only 161 today, when they can actually do 450 megawatts. But they don't have enough fuel. AXA is also having the same challenge. They don't have enough fuel to be able to produce. They are doing the tie-in, so most of the power plants in the west cannot also produce, and they don't have, even though they can switch to light crude oil, they don't have enough fuel to be able to do the switching. So these are challenges that has to be communicated and properly addressed. Yeah, we have enough gas stranded offshore that are not coming in because the infrastructure to transmit the gas to the west, because you have the Car Power, the access here in the east, and the gas is in the west. So they were supposed to do a reverse flow to allow the gas to flow to Tema, and that hasn't been completed yet. That's what they are trying to do now, to allow about 60 million standard cubic feet of gas to come. If that gas could come, Asogli alone could take up the shortfall that we have currently. But because they don't have the gas reverse into the east, the gas is stranded, in the west, and that's where the challenge really is. But hopefully in the next coming weeks, that should be resolved to allow gas to flow back.
Well, away from power issues, Ghana has been challenged to take full advantage of the African Risk Capacity Insurance Company Limited to build its capacity in climate and disaster risk management finance. And this was a suggestion from the Director General of the African Risk Capacity. It is an agency mandated by the African Union to help African governments improve their capacities to better plan, prepare, and respond to extreme weather events and natural disasters. Let's take a flight to Ethiopia, shall we, where Joy Business's assistant editor, Nova Hayford, is attending a climate financing conference for Joy Business. Nova, let's begin with what discussions have taken place so far.
Okay, Daryl, what has been going on here has to do with how African nations can take advantage of this group that was put together by various heads. That's the African Risk Capacity Agency. And they have also formed what we call the African Risk Capacity Insurance. And what it means is that, nations will have to find money and buy insurance. And then when I hit any disaster, whether it be it river flooding or any other thing, they're able to take advantage. Let me just remind you that in February, Ghana signed an MOU with ARC, which is African Risk Capacity, to take advantage of the drought, which is to take care of over 120 of the farmers. Had to do with drought in the north regions and some part of the Bonga region, so which means that when in Ghana, what's happened is that agency, which is and then pay out some money to mitigate, the problems that will come with it.
Okay, and so Novan, how do we situate this in the Ghanaian context? I mean, because we are participating in this.
Daryl, recall just know what has happened in Malawi, Zimbabwe. Get to know that disaster is not far away. When there's a thing happening as far as climate change is concerned, and must prepare as a country so that when these things are able to deal with them, and how the cost to a nation when you are hit by disaster, that it affects your physical. And what do you say that your body is hit? People have not prepared, and you have to look money to be able to rebuild.
Okay.
And also still happen.
Okay.
Indian team led by.
All right, Nova Nakwahefo, we have to apologize. We had to take him off because of the poor quality of sound. Hopefully we'll hear from him in the coming days. But before we wrap up tonight, Patricia Obonai today formally assumed office as the first Ghanaian female chief executive of Vodafone Ghana. The outgone chief executive, Yolanda Cuba, heads to Vodacom Group South Africa. Until her appointment, Madame Obonai was director of fixed business and customer operations of Vodafone Ghana. She joined the telecom firm as chief technology officer rather than a member of the executive committee since January 2011. Now, prior to that, she had worked for 14 years with Millicom Ghana, operators of Tigo, and we anticipate that competition is already set out for her in terms of how she can use the new 4G service acquired by Vodafone to grow market share. So congratulations there to Madame Patricia Obonai on her job as first female chief executive of Vodafone Ghana Limited. That's how we wrap up Business Live for tonight. Thanks for watching. My name is Daryl Kwao. There's always more news on our website, joybusinessnews.com. Get there, have the latest information. There you see the website. Have a good read if you can. Thanks for watching. We will be back same time tomorrow. Stay tuned.